Final Jeopardy today. And our category will be sea life once again, this time as in under the sea. The players will make their way. We'll start in the middle with John Williams. What's your response, sir? What is the Great Barrier Reef? That's correct. Rising sea temperatures are endangering coral reefs. So you're going to add how much to your score? $14.99 to 2,999. Maria Krasinski was in second place. She did. She's going to add something. How much? 801, enough to move her just barely into second place. Amy Snyder is making Final Jeopardy very interesting lately. Big wagers, whether she's correct or not. Let's see. First of all, did she write down the Great Barrier Reef? Oh, she did. So this could be a big payout. What did she wager? Wow, that's a gutsy bet. $25,000.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, I just finished watching
Oh, I
Jeopardy.
heard she won big.
Big now, big.
Yeah. How much tonight?
Unbelievable. It's 63,000 she just won today.
Not bad. Not bad. I don't know who's gonna beat her. I don't know.
Her or he? It's a he, she.
It's a she. It's now a she.
It's a he, she. No, really. She's a man, converted.
Yeah.
She's a he. She's a he, she.
I don't know what bathroom she uses, but she's smart.
And she's so ugly. She's so ugly. All that money's not going to help her improve her looks. So ugly. I can't look at her.
But
My
She's
wife
a
looks at
girlfriend.
her.
smart. She's
Huh?
smart.
So smart. Smart,
Yeah.
smart.
What good does it do?
The
Okay.
knowledge is this. It's not narrow. It's wide.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah. Let Bernie ask her a Shyla.
Ernie? The Gemara she doesn't know.
Yeah, that she does know, yeah.
Ah,
I would want to be that smart. I would.
So now he's going to rush through the blood.
right, in 20 minutes.
She'll get your answer. I looked it up. See, I looked ahead. Cheated. I saw the answer already. Yesterday, Shyla. Answer the.
Oh,
You
there
counsel this. You counsel the son or not? Because of the father, you penalize the son. That's the question.
Kenny, how's the snow?
Hey guys,
Hi,
snow
Ken.
is
Hello.
great. Yeah, I'd show you. Let me see here. Skiing is good. The snow is good. Nothing like winter.
Okay, we are on Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. We boy minei Rab Yirmiyam Rab Zera. Give him lachta b'moed umeis. We said that a person cannot plan to do some malacha during Chol HaMoed. So what if he and what if he did? And we say it's usher. What if he did and then he died? Marsha yiknesu bonam v'achrav. So can his children, can the heirs benefit from what he did? Chol HaMoed. So im tim saloy mar tzara moizen b'chor kansu b'noy achrav. So the din is your firstborn animal of a b'chor has to be given to the kohen. If the animal is unblemished, the kohen has to offer it as a korban. If the animal has a mum, it becomes the private asset of the kohen, and he can shecht it and eat it, So it's more valuable if it has a mum. So therefore, Kohanim were suspected of placing mums in their Bechor. So if a Kohen is found that he did that, he made a slit in the ear of his Bechor. So not only is he knast that he can't benefit from the Bechor, konsu b'noi achrav. So don't bring me a raya, says the Gemara, because there mishum disur deraisa. That is asur midaraisa. But here, by mlachta b'moed, that's only a rabbinic prohibition where they knast him. So maybe we'd say no. You're not allowed to sell your Evet Kanani to a goy, because when the Evet Kanani lives in your house, he at least performs a mitzvah like an isha and a cotton. Now, once he's sold to a goy, he's not obligated to do any mitzvahs. So we knas you, the owner, that you have to be meshachrer him if you sell your Evet Kanani to a nochri. The din is konsub noyachrav. And not only that, if the father did it and then died, and then the sons are in the place of the father, the knas remains on the children as well. Well, the Gemara says that might be mishum dechol yom mafkele mitzvahs. There's a special chumrah there because you're preventing him from doing mitzvahs every day. But the question is hachamai. Regarding the doing a malach on chol hamoed, do we say gavra konis rabban on the halesa? Is the knas on the gavra? Since the gavra did something bad, it's only his knas, but his children didn't do it. So therefore, maybe there's no knas on them. But maybe it's the asset that the rabbanon, you utilized an asset and you did a malacha with it, or you created something, and that asset is still there. So maybe the knas is on the asset. So Amr Lei to Nisua. The answer to your question is a Mishnah. Sadish niskavtza b'shvi is you have a field, you're not allowed to work a field, but somebody went ahead and took thorns out of the field. Tizar l'motzei shvius, that field can be planted, there's no knas. Taking out thorns from a field, it's not a malacha that asers a field. However, netaiva nedaira, you watered the field or you fertilized the field, then lo tizar l'motzei, then we knas you. And you're not allowed to put seeds in it, motzei shvius. What about Heitiva Umes? The owner of the field watered it and died. The din is b'no zora. The din is his son is allowed to be zoyre it motzei shvius. Alma lididei konsraban and livrei lo konsraban. It's a knas on the gavra, not on the mamoin, and therefore that would be the same by cholamoid. Achanami lididei konsraban and livrei lo konsraban. Okay, Amra Baya. Naktinan time toirosov umes. A person is metame food that is tohor of his neighbor. Now, when you touch something and you're tameh, and it's not a visible hezek. There's no heker to that hezek. It's invisible. Technically, a hezek that has no heker, there's no damages. You don't have to pay. Chachamim made an extrajudicial knas if someone's metame the taroisav of his friend. Okay. What about a person who was metame the taharos umeis and he died? The din is loy konsu b'noy achra. Same thing. It's knas on the gavra, not on the asset. They didn't make a knas on the children. My time. A hezek sheina nikar lo shmei hezek. This is a kind of hezek that you can't visualize. Lididei konsrabanan. So, to the person himself who was metame, they can knas it, even though it's a hezek sheina nikar. Librei lo konsrabanan, but that knas cannot extend to the children. Okay, Mishnah. In loichin batim avodim ubehem el tzarchamoy. You cannot buy real estate. You cannot buy avodim. You cannot buy animals unless you need it for Chol Hamoed. Or let's say the seller needs to sell something because otherwise he has nothing to eat on Yom Tov. So you can carry out that transaction as well. Boimene Ravim Rav Nachman. Schar Pu'ula. You have a worker. You're normally not allowed to hire a worker to do a certain type of work on Chol Hamoed. But let's say the worker doesn't have what to eat. Can you hire him? Omer lei tanina. No. So why did you have to come and add that statement? That the seller who doesn't have to eat, it must be lasuyi my lav lasuyi schar pu'ula. It's probably coming to include this worker who needs wages. It's not to be medai. It's we explained. What do you mean? Why can't you ein loichin batim avodim ubeima? It's so l'tzarach hamoicha you can, but not necessarily for schar pu'ula. Eis ve'abai. It says in koisvin shtori choiv b'moed. Person wants to make a loan, needs money to borrow, but the lender needs a shtar because he doesn't trust the guy's going to pay him back. So he wants a shibud on his land. We don't write a shtar b'moed. However, imenu mamino, if he doesn't trust him, or she'enu mayochal, or the guy that he's loaning money to has nothing to eat, then you can write it. Now, what do you mean she'enu mayochal? What does that come to add? Maybe lav lasu is charpula. It's coming to add our question of, can you hire a worker and pay him wages normally for work that can't be done chol hamoed? The din is, yeah, if he can't have nothing to eat, the din is shmami no. Yes, you can. Moisef Rav Sheishes, the Chachamim Oimim, Sholosh Umnias, Oisim Locha Bar Ve'Psochim Ad Chatzos. 3 professionals. Normally, you don't work Erev Pesach, but there are 3 professionals that they're allowed to work until Chatzos Erev Pesach. Chachayotim, tailors. People have to have a new suit for Yom Tov. Hasaparin and barbers. Vakoivs and launderers. Hachayatin shekain hed yitoy for kedarka b'chol shemoed. The reason is because even a balabas can sew during Chol Hamoed. Hasaparin vakoivs and shekain aboyim dinas hayam vayotz beis asurin. This is what Elazar Gnara was asking about yesterday. Somebody comes out of prison on Chol Hamoed, mutar l'sapir l'chaber. He can take a haircut in Chol Hamoed. And even launder b'chol shemoed. You didn't have an opportunity erev Yom Tov. Regular people, if you were misrashel and you didn't take a haircut erev Yom Tov, you're not allowed to take a haircut chol hamoed. But here they can, and since you can do it chol hamoed, they can do it erev Pesach. But if you've come out that the worker could be, can normally it's work that can't be done chol hamoed. But if he has nothing to eat, you can hire him. So kol malachos nami lishtaru. So what do you mean? Why just these professions that you mentioned? It's any malacha. The hayekas charpula shelam hayochal. If somebody needs to eat, who cares what his profession is? He's a carpenter. He's a blacksmith. Not only that, binyan lishtari, we should permit binyan erev Pesach. Shekain koisel agoyel shusarabim. You have a wall that's threatening to fall into shusarabim. Soiser bonikedarko and esakana. So if you're comparing chol hamoed and erev Pesach, so you could do. You should allow binyan as well as erev Pesach. Maskiv ravina el me'ata lavlar lishtri. A soifer, a scribe, would be permitted to work erev Pesach. Shekain koisvin kedushay noshim gitin v'shoifrin, because you're allowed to write receipts, etc. And gitin v'shoivrin kedushay noshim even b'chol hamoed. So Amar Ravashi moed our boss or karamis. You're trying to make a zushtel between erev Pesach and chol hamoed. Nah, moed mishum tirchuhu. Why can't you do these malachas on chol hamoed? It's tirchi yisera. Malkum say the shara. The general principle is, if there's a financial loss, the chachamim permitted. Our boss are. Why was the tailor and the barber and the launderer permitted erev Pesach? It's mishum tzarich yontif. You need a new suit yontif. You need a new haircut yontif. Needed it tzarich yontif shara rabbanon. Needed the lav tzarich yontif lo shara rabbanon. But all these other things that you wanted to say that are permitted Chol Hamoed, you want to say you can permit Erev Pesach? No, because the whole reason for why you allow it Erev Pesach is a whole different reason. Mishnah. Ein mefanim mibayis labayis. You can't move things, furniture from house to house. Chol Hamoed. Ava mefanu l'chatzer, you can move it out to your chatzer. Ein mevin kelim mibeis ha'umin. You've deposited something at a craftsman. You're not allowed to bring it home. Chol Hamoed. In choishesh lahen, if you're afraid they're going to get lost or stolen, mefanim l'chatzer acheres. You got to do it in a shinu. You have to move them to a different chatzer, but not your chatzer. Freit the Gemara, what do you mean mefanim l'chatzer? V'amid reisha mefanim klal. Rabbi Seifa son l'bayis shebachatzer. We're talking about in the Seifa a bias that opens up to a chatzer. Ve'mevim keli beis ha'umin. Amra Papa, barik lo Rava. Rava examined us. Tanan. Ein mevim keli beis ha'umin. You can't bring a kli home from a craftsman. V'riminu. I'll ask you a kasha. Mo'lichin mevim keli beis ha'umin. You can take to the craftsman and bring home. Aval pishen l'tzarach moed, even if it's not needed for moed. V'shaninan lei, and we explained the stira kan bar ba'asar. One is talking about Erev Pesach, and one is talking about Chol Shel Moed. The Mishnah that matired was Erev Pesach, and the brisa that didn't allow it was Chol Moed. Iboy say mahava Chol Shel Moed. If you want to can be mitaretz the stira, both are talking about Chol Moed, but kan b'mamino. If you rely on him and you trust him, then you can leave it in the craftsman. You don't have to take it home. Kan b'she'enam amino. Enam amino, they were matir to bring it home. Vatanya. I'll bring you a brisa b'nichusa. See Rashi siyua. Sometimes Rashi will say b'nichusa to support. Siyua also means to help, right? Like siyata dishmaya. So sometimes vahatanya is a kasha, but here Rashi is warning us that here's vahatanya is a support. Mevi'in kelim beis ha'umin. You can bring a kelim home from the craftsman. You can go kadmi beis hakader, like a jug from the jug maker. The kosmi beis hazagag, a glass cup from the glass maker. Avalot seber beis hatzafar, but not wool from the dyer. Below kelim beis ha'umin, and not kelim from a craftsman who built them. However, ve'lo mayochal notin lo scharo. If the worker doesn't have to eat, you can pay him. Umanicho etzlo, and leave it by him. However, meino mamino, if you don't trust him, manicho b'bayis ha'samach, move it into a next door house. Move it to another chotzer. And finally, meino mamino mevi'im betzina b'toch beis, so you can do it quietly to your house. Fine. Teratz to mevi'im. You slugged up the bringing home, but moilichin but bringing it to the place kasha. The tani ein mevi'im, the kosher ken shein moilichin. The machvarta k'shem mikara. We're talking about Erev Pesach and Chol Hamoed. The attempt to resolve it that hava Chol Shel Moed didn't work. Mishnah. Mechapenes akzios bakash. You can cover. You have dates. You're trying to dry them up. You don't want them to get moist. You can cover them with straw on Chol Hamoed. Rabbi Yehuda Omer afma avin. You can stack them up so that it's thick. And then moichre peiros ksus v'kelim, the sellers of fruit, garments, and kelim. Moichrin b'tzina, they can't sell publicly. B'tzina, quietly, l'tzorach hamoed. For people who need it, Chol Hamoed. Hatzayodin v'adeshoshes v'grosos. These are people that thresh grain or cut up beans. They can also do their job Chol Hamoed quietly. Rabbi Yossi Omer, hey mechmir alatzman that they don't do it. Pligi barav chia barav rabasi with Rav Mishmei Chizki Rabbi Yochanan. Chadam machapin aklushi. Some say they can cover very thinly. and ma'avin asmuchi, which is thick. The charav machapin means ben aklushi ben asmuchi, is both thin and thick. And ma'avin is oysters that come in kri. You pile them up into like a mound. Tanya ma'achi ma'avin oysters that come in kri, like a mound. Div Rabbi Yehuda. Moichrei peres tus v'kelim moichrim b'tzina. Their sellers of these items can sell quietly. Iboilu. Heinich mir alatzman delavu avdi klal. When we say that they're machmer, they didn't do it at all. Or idilma dahavu avdi b'tzina, that they did it quietly. Toshma. Tanakama says they can sell it quietly. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Tagre Tveria, Heinech mir alatzman shli moichin kol liquor. So the answer is they were machmer on themselves not to sell it all. The hunters of birds and animals, they can hunt quietly if needed for Chol HaMoed. Rabbi Yossi Omer Tzadei Akko, from Akko, they didn't hunt at all. Dashoishe Chilka targets for Tisni. This is like grinding wheat to make like rolled oats, oatmeal. These are all types of cracked grain, cracked wheat. So, and we're going to see a little bit more detail about this. These craftsmen could do it quietly. L'tzorach hamoed. Rabbi Yossi Omer, dashushi tzipori. The people did it in tzipori. And henech ben latzman shli doishin kolik. Now, Abai explains all these various technical processes. Chilka is when you take a kernel of wheat and you crack it into two. Chada l'tarti. Targis is chada l'tlas. To me, it looks like Greek, triangle, right? Targis, triage, targis, 3, right? 1 and 3. Tisni is chada l'arba, 1 and 4. Kiosar of Dimi Omar Kunta. Beatrice, I'm teaching now.
Kuntu kante, yeah.
B, I'm teaching now. Okay, but I'm teaching right now. Koisemes is like a different type of grain. It's like oats or it's also something that's cracked. Meisvei, chilka targets for tisni tmein b'chol makom. These are standard foods, and they're for the metame oichel. So bishul mandor achad l'tarti l'tlas arba. I understand the mandor that says 1 to 2 and to 3 and to 4. It's regular food. Mishamachi tmein b'chol makom. And the iskasha, you use water in the process. So there's hechshel kabel tuma. A dry grain cannot be makabel tuma unless it's moist. El mandam kunta ma'itmen b'chol makom alo iskasher. I guess in that processing, it doesn't become wet. More says could go into mekalfin. No, you folded it. The lav deshar will be in my mind. You can't fold it unless you soaked it in water. Lahav mekaflev. Amaika karle chilka. Why is it called chilka? The shakel chelkayu. It's like divided into pieces. Neisvei. Hanoidim and adogan. Person takes a neder. I'm not going to eat grain. Osir af popula mitzri yavish. The Egyptian bean, which is dry, was considered like dogon. However, mutter balach, if it was moist, it's not dogon. Umutter ba'oirez, you're allowed to eat rice. Rice is not dogon. Bechilka v'targis v'tisni. And you can also, l'chura, these items, these cracked wheat things, l'chura, are not dogon. I don't understand. The nafkalumitar is dogon. I guess that processing removes them from the status of dogon. Kunta is another kind. It's like oats or millet or rye. It's one of those dogon mayu. How can you say they can't eat that? He should not be able to eat that. It's clearly dogon. Kasha. So according we don't have an explanation. Rav Huna permitted perfume sellers to go in a normal way in the market and sell. Chol Moed, Ezer Rav Kana, Chanus Psucha L'Stav, a market that's open up into the stav were like these columns and the side part of the Rosh Hashanah where people would stand there in front of the market. So Poisech V'Noel Kedarko. There you can open and close. It's tzina. It's not public that much, so therefore you can open and close the regular way. However, if your market was open, you have to do a shinui. Open one door, close another. However, Erev Yontif, Achron Shulchag, Erev Shmini Atzeres, Motziu Ma'ater Shuki prepares B'Shvil Kovid Yontif Achron. They would dress up the whole city with fruits to make it look festive. And they covered Yontif Achron in. Shalom, and they covered Yontif Lo. If it wasn't for covered Yontif, they weren't allowed. So like Kasha, Habit Peri, Habit Tfolin. Means with fruit, we're not allowed to decorate the rest of the city with fruit before Hestia. People can buy that before the Chag, and people are going to think you're going to buy it after the Moed, but Habit Tavlin. But spices, they didn't aser, because you buy a little bit at a time, only for the Tzorach HaMoed. Okay. Tomorrow, Daf